In 1969, the group Steppenwolf's hit song, "The Monster," depicted the sordid history of America's birth. In the early 80s, those infected with HIV and AIDS silently died in prison, infected with the monster. We know now how targeting black and brown people fueled mass incarceration's monster, and now systemic poverty is the new monster. Do the leaders of our country know what it's like to be poor? Systemic poverty is as perennial as the grass we walk on. Each year it grows higher than the last, as more homeless, helpless, and wealthless are living on the streets. They are joined by the most vulnerable leaving prisons, impacted by a broken reentry system that places formerly incarcerated people in a bed at a shelter. Too many are now leaving a prison institution only to reside in a sheltered institutions. America's systemic poverty is a human rights issue. I didn't subscribe to this. I didn't spend 4 decades in prison changing my behavior only to return to a system that encourages bad behavior. This can't be happening. I was saddened by the number of people living in the streets and shelters. As strange as this sounds, I live better in a prison cell than those living at a shelter. This is not a third world country. This is the land of the free, America. What does that say about the real estate owners of this country who appropriated actions, stole land from the indigenous peoples who became America's original homeless population? Slavery was the next homeless population, as Africans were brought in slave ships to work for landlords who created laws to justify their landlordship. Today, their views of the landless class remain a moral indignation of heartlessness. After 40 years, I left one institution to work at another. How's that for a career change? Being around people less fortunate than me is a humbling effect. If only those more fortunate than me felt the same way. I see how the choke of systemic poverty has many grasping for air. In fact, those same whispers of Eric Gardner's "I can't breathe" can be consciously heard as I enter a homeless shelter. I too remember how I grasped for 14,000 countless nights to be free and not to be released to a world of people wearing masks during a global pandemic, distancing themselves from one another for fear of catching the virus monster. Can we all join in love? Can we all agree to help heal from the past that keeps repeating? We must never forget how we all witnessed the fascist knee of Derek Chauvin holding George Floyd's neck for 8.46 minutes. We cannot rest until the juggernaut knee of systemic poverty frees the 600,000 homeless necks living in the streets of America. Pray, brethren, that America's consciousness finds a way to live in the fourth chakra of love, the sacred heart of humanity, in thy resuscitation.